Welcome to DasGeek. What you're staring at here is the Pinebook Pro. This is the desktop. Yes, I know. It looks so much better than my unboxing video in which I couldn't get the screen to look right, the blur. And that's because I'm capturing the desktop here through a USB-C connection, and you get to see this screen here, this beautiful 1920 by 1080 representation of the Pinebook Pro desktop. And of course, this is running their customized Debian version that they have. And I want to get into some tips and tricks in this video because I see so many people are getting their Pinebook, and I want to share what I've learned up to this point. Now, I've been having an absolute blast with this device. I have been using it to write the Destination Linux podcast show notes, which is mostly browser based, but lots of research and different websites and things that have to be done. So I've done that for the last two episodes, made edits to the last one, and wrote the full episode this week on this device. I have been doing some small video editing just to show that it can be done. I've been trying to really take this thing to the max of what you can do with a $199 laptop. Now I'm going to do another video where I will kind of give you my final review after spending over a week with the device. So I'm not going to go into the good and the bad and the ugly in this video. There are certainly little quirks here and there that need to be worked out with this device, but overall, I'm very happy with what this $199 device can do. And again, I'm going to show you those tips and tricks here. So the first thing I want to do is I've posted this on my website. So if you go to dasgeekcommunity.com, you go through under the tips and tricks section, there will be a link that will take you to this pinebook.html, or you can just type the URL in directly if you don't want to look at the rest of my site, which I don't know why you wouldn't. But let's just pretend you didn't want to sit there and just browse my site and be like, wow, oh my God, his coding skills on NeoCities is incredible. Anything that's good on the site is because of people who've helped. So just put that out there. Anyways, here is the tips and tricks that I have. So universal packages, they can run on this device, and that's going to help you a lot because I found there is a lot of restrictions to what software is available for an ARM-based device in Linux. And so this is a little bit frustrating on the aspect that you can't get every software package that you want, but thankfully snaps run really well. Now, I've not had good success, and I think this might be a Debian thing with Flatpaks on the same token. Either the software I wanted wasn't available as a Flatpak, and this is on me. This is not on Flatpaks, but I'm used to when you set up Flatpaks in most distros now, you can do something like Flatpak search Firefox. But in this case, it's kind of the old style. So it's an older version of Flatpak where it doesn't automatically search the repositories. So you have to go manually add them in and all of that. And that's just not very fun for me. More of a pain, whereas Snap version works here fine. So you can do, Snap and search for something, and it's automatically going to look and see what's available there for you. And you can just do the Snap install and be able to install these packages. I noticed, at least on my machine, snaps were not showing up in the menu. So to fix that, you can just run this command that I have here. This is going to export the path so that your menu picks up the snaps that you install. So I would first install the snap, see if everything works, reboot your computer, install something in Snap, and then so install snapd, reboot your computer, install something, see if it shows up in the menu. If not, you can execute this command here. One of the other things, I've done a couple different workarounds to try to get temps because people are very interested in temps with this laptop. And while they have this nice little temperature meter here, it's not very accurate for this device. This is kind of a Mate sensor applet plugin. What I did is I wrote a little script. It's out there on my GitHub page, which is linked here, and you can basically run it, and it's going to pull that information. You just run that with the / in front of it once you download and export it, and that's going to give you your CPU and your GPU temperatures right there. So that's a great, more accurate way of getting your temperatures on this device. So you can look at the script and the code and how I'm capturing that. One of the things I wanted to search for is, because there is kind of a limited amount of software, is what's a good IDE, somewhere where I can program and write software in. Visual Studio wasn't there. Sublime wouldn't install, at least in some of my tests. So I started looking for one that would, and Genie is a fantastic option there. So I have Genie here, and for instance, one of the things I have out there on my GitHub is my install script that I work on. So just wanted to show you Genie is a great IDE that has lots of plugins and different abilities. So if you're looking for an environment to program in with your Pinebook Pro, Genie would be one of the options I would recommend for you to check out. I think it's been surprisingly good. So I've not utilized it in the past. I've always stuck to Sublime and others, but this is starting to make me a believer. So if you've not checked out Genie, check that out. That is a good, compatible, feature-rich IDE for you. The other thing is you want to set up your root password on this in case you need to get into that. So you can do that by just sudo password root. So when you first get your device, your initial login is going to be rock and your password is going to be rock, but you will not have a root password set. So you'll have to, if you want to do like su dash and go into root, which if you don't know what you're doing, I don't recommend. But let's say you do know what you're doing. You could set your password there by this command, sudo passwd root, and then it'll ask you to type in a password and you'll be set from there. This next section is more of an advanced try at your own risk. If you want to change the username, like me, I went and set up everything under this rock profile, and I really didn't want to go through reinstallation or resetting up a brand new user on there. I just wanted to use the profile that I had set everything up on. And the great thing with Linux is it's tied to a UID, so you can change your username without losing all your files. And I give the commands here and the steps to do that. I have this as advanced try at your own risk because it's something I've not had to do before in Linux. What this will do is it still will tie when you change your username to your folder of, or your home folder of rock. So it's still going to tie your home folder. It's still going to be titled rock. You're just going to have your new username, in my case, DasGeek here instead of rock. And then of course you could change the password. You can also try to rename that home folder and in files, but I ran into issues doing that. In any case, when you go to change your username, if you decide to do this, you can use the sudo user mod -L, and we're going to go to DasGeek from rock, and then it's going to tell you, well, there are PIDs running here that are active that you're going to need to kill. So you're going to have to type in kill and those PID numbers to kill them. At one point, it may bring you back to the screen. So you just go back to Control F1 again and continue killing PIDs until it takes and you'll be set. Again, I'm not experienced in this. I left this in here, advanced try at your own risk, in case somebody has already set up their machine with the rock. But this is just a perfect example of why things like Pop! OS, where they allow you to ship the operating system fully installed essentially without the username. The username gets created after the system is installed is a much better method. You can fix the clock by this command here. So I noticed the clock, no matter what time zone I changed it to, it would not allow me it really wouldn't show the correct time at all. So you can just grab this here and do a sudo dpackage reconfigure tz data. And once you do this and select the appropriate time zone that you're in and reboot, it will set your clock correctly. So if you have a stuck clock, this is the way to fix it right here. And I'll show you what this looks like. And basically it just allows you to set the time zone that you want. So I'm in the United States, but you could choose the continent that you're on here. I'm going to do US, click OK. And then I want the Eastern time zone, and it's going to set all of that and set my clock appropriately as well. One of the issues with the Pinebook Pro that I'm not as happy with is the trackpad. It's, you know, and this is user preference here, but the trackpad is kind of this rough material. And so when it's just not extremely accurate. Like if you're trying to get into the corners here, like you want to readjust this, by the time you kind of grab it, of course it's going to work perfectly now. I just find it's not as accurate as I would like it to be, and that's because I'm probably used to more of the, you know, glass or glossy trackpads where it's just much smoother to move across the trackpad than this more rough material that they use, this kind of textured plastic that they have as the mouse pad. It's okay. It works. You can get work done. It's not a deal breaker. So what you want to do is just go under here, under mouse, and then you're going to set your acceleration and your sensitivity up higher here. And you also have some other settings you can mess with, like disable touchpad while typing, which is checked by default. And this tripped me up a lot when I first got this laptop, because if your palm rests on that trackpad at all, then the keyboard stops typing. So I disabled that, and I've been fine ever since. So this is kind of talking about some things I tried. I tried to add LSPCI via the install PCI utilities, but that wouldn't work. So I installed LSHW instead, and then ran LSHW sanitize to get hardware info. So if you want to kind of get some additional info on this device, LSHW is the key here. And if you want to sanitize, of course, you could run it as sudo. This will give you some information. Sanitizing basically removes any identifiable information that somebody could use. That's why it says serial number, for instance, is removed. That's what the sanitize switch does here. So this gives you some information on the CPUs that are in there, the megahertz that they run on, just basic information about the whole system and all the hardware inside. So again, this is kind of a tip and trick for if you're playing YouTube videos and things. You'll notice that depending on the video and the quality that it's shot in and what you're playing that video at, that you could get stuttering periodically. And I've noticed a lot of that has to do with this on-demand performance. So if you know you're going to do something that's taxing to a low-powered ARM device like this, I suggest you either go into a performance mode, or you manually set the speed here at the highest setting so that you don't have any of that kind of playback issues. That seems to clear it up. I did have some issues with Firefox and YouTube specifically, and this may be just a me thing or something on my account. I have looked into this. I have no idea. If you know the solution, leave it in the comments below. But basically, Firefox works. All the sound works in every application except YouTube. If I'm logged in. If I'm not logged into YouTube, I can hear sound. Every video will play sound. If I log in, there is no sound. I can watch the video, but I get no sound. So I have no idea what's going on there at all. However, in this case, I use Chromium in its place, and I can log into my account on YouTube through Chromium, and it plays the sound no problem. I have no idea, again, why I'm having that issue, but in case you run into it, that's how you fix it. Also, try out the Mandrake Arm version. So there's a link here to it. If you are not happy with the Debian, custom Debian version, then try out the Mandrake Arm version. They've worked out a lot of the bugs. There's still some issues, so make sure you read through the notes. But for instance, they've already fixed the Wi-Fi bug issue they had. They fixed the Bluetooth that didn't have sound initially. All of that's been resolved, and it's been in alpha stages, so keep that in mind. You're going to run into bugs and things with it, but I do find there's a lot of packages available there that you can run, and I just love Arch-based distros, so Mandrake Arm version is very cool, and I'll show that in another video. Use the web version of programs. So this is kind of a trick in case, for instance, you have trouble installing. For me, I use SimpleNote to take all of my notes, but I could not get an ARM version of SimpleNote to run. There's no Snap version. I have basically no other option but to use the web version. So what I did here is to make myself a little icon so I can quickly get to my notes, is I just right click on the desktop and click Create Launcher. And then here you just make the name that you want for the launcher. And then your command is very simple. So if I want Firefox to open it, or I want Chromium to open it, if I want Chromium to open it, I'd just type in Chromium-browser and then the website URL. And if I want Firefox to open it, I just type Firefox and then the website URL as the command. So it's just literally like Firefox space and then the command. And you can see it automatically changes the icon. So it's found Firefox. That's what it's going to launch. And then I just put the URL in there, and that's going to open that URL when I click that. And that creates an icon like this that I can click on at any time to get into the applications that I want. And I'll show you this example here. So this is doing Chromium-browser and then just the web URL to open SimpleNote. So if I click that icon, it's going to bring me right into SimpleNote through a web browser, and that's a workaround for me. And there are other OSs also available. I've only played with Chromium OS and Debian and Manjaro. Chromium OS is pretty much a bust for me. I just don't get it. And I had issues enabling Linux on it. So, Chrome OS, this is Chromium OS, has the ability to run Linux applications within it, but that didn't work for me. It just kept failing to install. There's an Android OS as well. I would stick personally with the custom Debian that they have here, or the Manjaro version. Out of the ones that I've played with have been the best. So if you need information on trying out other OSs, I definitely recommend using Etcher in this case to burn the images to a SD card. You're not going to be able to get Etcher, as far as I know, to work on the ARM device. You're going to have to use another computer with that. Every time I used DD, it failed with these Chromium specifically, and the Manjaro version it would write it and everything was fine. It just would never boot to it. So clearly something I'm doing wrong. But in any case, if you use Etcher, you won't run into that issue at all. So that's it. These are the tips and tricks that I have racked up so far. If you get one of these devices, this is a video that I've rendered. One of the video editors that I use, because Kdenlive doesn't install. I can't get it. It installs, but I can't get it to work properly, is OpenShot. So I'm using OpenShot here as my editor for videos. And I actually rendered this video right here, this Pine Render MP4. And we're going to use VLC because I get errors with MP4s using SM Player. So if we use this, you can see that I'm using simple screen recorder here, and was able to kind of show some of the work that I was doing here and render this whole video out from OpenShot, which I thought was pretty cool. So yes, this device can render. It's very slow, and I would not put some massive videos and things in here, but it is capable of doing that. It does play Netflix, so you can do that as well. I believe it also plays Amazon Prime videos. I did notice that for instance, if you're going up to something past 2K video resolution, that you're going to have a lot of slowdown. I've not been able to get 4K to work properly on this. So I would avoid 4K content, but this is not a 4K display, so probably shouldn't be playing 4K content on it anyways. But perhaps if it's only running one screen and you have this connected through USB-C to a 4K monitor, because I believe it's supposed to output 4K, that may work. But I've had a lot of issues with stuttering and performance with that. So I will get into my final review of everything on the Pinebook in a later video. So far, I'm extremely happy with the device, because you have to keep in mind the cost of this device at $199. It's way more capable than any Chromebook out of the box, and I have been able to do a lot of cool things with it, even some minor gaming and things, which is another tip there. I highly recommend you check out some of the videos on Pinebook's main page, because they are doing some emulation stuff where they're using emulators they're installing on this to play games from Nintendo and other of the older games. Of course, this is not a gaming machine, so don't expect to be running the latest AAA graphic game out there. But, and that sound is terrible. Any of these open source games would be great for you to try out and play. They run very, very well. Of course, they're not very graphically intense games, but you can have a lot of fun with this device if you're not playing, like I said, AAA games. It runs these things just fine. You can see the on demand is working here. You can see the megahertz going up to gigahertz and changing based on what the CPU needs at that time. But overall, it's been a fun little game, a little computer to do some simple gaming with. And this is like our version of Mario in the Linux world. And you can see there's some slowdown there. So instead of letting it decide, hey, I'm going to run at, on demand as we need it, because it's not very good at that, we're going to go ahead and pump up into performance mode here. And I bet you we're going to have a much better experience. There you go. Much smoother. So that's a perfect example of why you would want to make those changes there, so that you're not running into performance issues or that extreme slowdown. So that's my video. Hopefully some of those tips and tricks help you. If you have some tips and tricks that you've learned while you've had your Pinebook Pro, share them with me. How are you getting software for ARM-based devices? Tell me about some sweet software that you found. If you have any additions to add, I will add them into my document so that others can benefit from it. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to check out destinationlinux.network, where you can go onto the discourse forums, for instance, and chat about this very video or any of the shows that are part of the Destination Linux network. We also have some sweet, awesome swag in the store that has all of the partners with destinationlinux.network there, including Linux for Everyone, Destination Linux, Ask Noah Show, Tux Digital. All of it's there for you. Zebediah Boss. I mean, all that content. And there's one shirt that's like a concert tour and has everybody's logo on it, which is pretty sweet. So check that out as well. And until next time, get out there and fill your brains.
Don't forget to subscribe. And make them if you like this video.